Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Tal Heinrich, spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister's office. Today is day 235 of the October 7th war, and our war aims remain the same: to destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities, to free all 125 hostages, and ensure that Gaza does not pose a threat to Israel ever again. All objectives are within reach, and Israel will not compromise on any of them. Firstly, I want to deal with Sunday night's strike against senior terrorists at the Hamas terrorist compound in Rafah. As the Prime Minister said yesterday in the Knesset, quote, "In Rafah, we have evacuated about 1 million civilians. Tragically, despite our immense efforts to avoid harming non-combatants, an incident occurred. We are investigating it thoroughly and will learn from it, as is our policy and long-standing conduct," end quote.
An innocent 10-year-old boy was killed for nothing. What did he do wrong in his short life? The room he was in with my uncle was hit with 2 shells. It took us hours to find his body. The shell ripped him apart.
Ambulances trying to reach the wounded in Western Rafah are shot at. In the north of the Strip, families returning to their homes in Jabalia come under fire. A woman asked the question so many in Gaza have asked for months now.
Where should we go? Let the Arab world look at us and see what is happening. This is not a life. This is not a life. I don't know what to say.
The UN estimates that at least 1 million displaced Palestinians fled Rafah in the past 3 weeks, searching for safety that does not exist. Hind Al-Khudri, Al Jazeera, Deir al-Balah, Gaza, Palestine.
So do you think it's more likely or less likely that you can be gaslit by official spokespeople after you inform yourself on multiple sides of the issue? Her story sounded very compelling on behalf of the Israeli Prime Minister, specifically aimed at the English-speaking audience in America. That was a lot of Hasbara right there. Those videos speak volumes. Unless you think those are, what do they call them? The crisis actors. Unless you think those are crisis actors and the Hamas is like into Hollywood producing over there, I would tend to believe that a lot of the live footage that you see coming from there on these clips is authentic and genuine. Now, every now and then a fake clip goes around, but most people like sniff that out pretty soon. What you see is authentic war journalism and coverage done by the individuals who were there, both on the side of the IDF and the people in the tent cities getting blown up in a kind of unfiltered way for the first time in history. This isn't 1991 CNN showing you the Gulf War through their lens. This is the world getting to hear the Hasbara and then seeing the headless people in the videos from the past week in a place the ICJ and ICC and the UN all said, don't do this thing in Rafah because it's a tent city of refugees. That's not war. That's a calculated slaughter. So let's go back to the point of what's the names of the Hamas operatives that they got in this attack? Did you guys I didn't get their names. I'm sorry. These important Hamas operatives that you got and you sacrificed all these other people in a burnt sacrifice. I didn't hear them make a big deal about the level of Hamas people that they got and how it's going to stop this war. It seems almost like it didn't matter and it had nothing to do with getting the hostages out. So I'm just quizzical as to what are they doing over there? What's going on? Because it's not ethnic cleansing. They've said that many times. It's not that. Huh. I don't know. We're going to have to do some more research, I think. Scott, before we move on, did you have some comments on that clip montage?
Oops, yeah, I was muted there. So yeah, definitely that lady in the beginning, I couldn't, I was trying to write down some of her little gotcha questions that she was throwing out there, her little rhetorical questions. Well,
yeah.
Zionist talking points. Yeah. I was like, whoa. I was like, why does their education system create so much terrorism? It's like, oh geez. Okay. Well, from what I've learned on this show, right. It was like funded and started by them. And then it's like the idea of, you're creating these terror, you're the one instigating all this stuff. It's the idea of just poking the bear and running away and being like, oh, why'd the bear attack me? And it's I couldn't even write them down fast enough. And she was the war, she said, quote, the wars, the wars they started themselves. Like what? Like they're the one. Like the Palestinians are the ones starting the war, right? Like
The people who lived there, they went to Europe, and they made World War II happen, according to her.
Yeah.
And people from Europe didn't move to Palestine and take their land, also according to her.
Yeah, or you could even go back to like, World War I, where it's like or after World War I, they're like, all of a sudden somebody else is writing some note to the Rothschilds, be like, hey, you guys can have this land, and then they're over here like, excuse me, no, we don't agree with that.
Hamas didn't have a large delegation at the Versailles Treaty Conference. That was their problem.
Yeah,
that was the issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
They didn't have a seat at the table back then.
Shocking. But you're so right. I mean, to your point there, like when you have the facts, you have this information, you have this context, you have the historical understanding of a lot of this stuff, it's like reflexive. It's like, oh, I actually can respond to that. And like, I actually know. And without all this information that, I mean, I've been watching your show since this all went down in October. I didn't have access to any of this information. I've never looked into this stuff myself. Like to some extent, maybe I have, but like not in this depth. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And so, that's what this big awakening is. And it's like, now when she says things like that, before I might have been like, yeah, those damn terrorists, you know what I mean? Like that, I fell for it once back in like the 2000s. I fell for that once. I was like, these damn terrorists, you know what I mean?
If you lived in Florida and you heard DeSantis say they put the babies in the ovens, and you don't know about they put the babies in the incubators, you might believe him.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, the first Iraq war, they took the babies out of the incubators. That was the big line by the daughter of the ambassador from she's from California. That was a PR firm, Hill and Knowlton. Look it up. That was all a scam. When they scam that war, and then Colin Powell, this vial has, like when you see just them scamming the public, what do you think's going on with 10-7? You think they're telling you the straight truth, or they're taking a bad event and they're hyperbolizing it so they can use all the street cred they can real fast to commit a whole bunch of, I'm not going to say genocide because that's a technical term, but ethnic cleansing, definitely, because you're removing them from their homes and preventing them from ever coming back and erasing their history, their libraries, their mosques, their museums, their hospitals, their schools. Leave no trace behind is the policy.
Yeah,
that's what's going on. That's beyond reasonable doubt for anyone who wants to listen to more than Jack or Bibi or DeSantis. Like if you just even crack the cover on that story, you're going to learn more than they want you to know, and you're going to have questions too. You're going to notice their contradictions as well. So a big justification for the destruction of the schools, the mosques, the museums, libraries, all these things has been human shields. And you heard them say tonight, they hide among the population. Bro, it's a prison. It's an open air prison. They all are prisoners in that prison. They are not allowed to set up shop someplace else. So I'm not defending them. I'm just saying, like, what you're saying about your enemy is so far out that it's bringing your credibility into question right there. Okay. These people have to live among those other people. The guy that gets killed by Lavender tagging him, and then Where's Daddy bombing his whole family's house and destroying, 4 generations at once. Where's that? Like, there's no barracks. They don't have a military because they're not a real state, even though technically the UN said they should have been a state and at least have a third of the land and give 2/3 to the people that moved there from Europe, caused by problems that the Palestinians didn't start. So it's like they have to pay a price for European history, which is colonization. That's what colonization is. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man.